like how they could bend rocks, probably by using their 30% larger cranial capacity.
They're constantly, hence that whole point of recreating Babylon, they're always trying to recreate that system where they had this control and power of everything, wherever they went.
We were reminded that this earth is ours, and so is the future. This is not a content channel, it is a movement. Share it, it's time to rise.
Well, hello there. How are you going today? Hope everything is fine and dandy in your part of the world. And it is again time to take a wander down the road of the strange realm that we find ourselves in. And it is strange. And I've been watching social media lately, and it seems to me that there's another change taking place. A lot more people seem to be becoming aware of what's really going on. Obviously, the flock cameras and the data centers are helping with that. But yeah, let me know in the comments. What have you seen? What have you noticed with, the zeitgeist of the people? Have you noticed a change recently in the last sort of month or so? Let me know in the comments. And now, let's jump in.
Humans are the only species that will spray food with poison to stop other creatures from eating it,
and then it's not
go and eat it themselves.
We, the people that are doing this, it is the control system, the parasites that want to fill us with poison, right? They're the ones that introduced this monoculture agricultural system. They own all the chemical factories and all this kind of stuff, fertilizers, and they're instructing our food growers, our farmers, to cover everything in chemicals. And then, yeah, it's true. And people go and buy it from the supermarket, which ain't that super. So shop local as much as you can and grow your own.
What was this 1877 book saying about vaccinations? This is Smedley's Practical Hydropathy. At the present time, when smallpox is destroying in London alone upwards of 200 people weekly, it becomes a duty of every lover of truth and of his country to expose the utter uselessness of that detestable and unnatural practice which the people have been misled to regard as sure protection, namely vaccination. That it is such a protection is only a groundless assertion of Jenner, who was the origination of vaccines. A well-meaning but mistaken theorist whose erroneous views have been severely followed by a profession which prides itself on its learning and superior scientific attainments. There can be no excuse for medical men of the present day continuing the practice, seeing that a vast amount of facts have been accumulating year after year, and in various countries showing that it really has no influence in preventing smallpox. So he was curing people with smallpox using just cold water, and his technique was called the wet pack, which is about basically wrapping the body in wet towels and then wrapping that in warm towels. And this expectoration of the skin is what kind of cures the smallpox. What becomes of the mendacious assertion of Jenner that one vaccination protects you for life, or of the equally false dictum of his modern disciples that twice vaccinated you are doubly protected, when we find at the present moment here and in Paris hundreds dying of smallpox who have been vaccinated, some once, others more than once? How come is that 80 out of every 100 admitted into the smallpox hospital and not less than 94 out of every 100 at the Hotel Dieu and other hospitals of Paris have been vaccinated? He then goes on to say, thousands of infant lives have been sacrificed at the altar of this modern Moloch, and infanticide has therefore been legalized amongst us. If vaccination were abolished tomorrow, it would take generations to eradicate the mischief it has caused in the physical deterioration of health.
Well, 150 years ago, pretty much.
This is
and
1877.
Already people knew it was a scam. I like the reference to Moloch. He obviously, knew what he was talking about, this guy. And then, obviously the sacrificing of people and babies, but the damage it does going forward in generations as well. And this is the thing. you know, that some people back then believed twice, you know, getting your shot twice makes you doubly vaccinated somehow. Well, there's some people today that are up to 6 and 7 with their boosters, and they're still getting it. And I have noticed this in social media, especially on Facebook, a lot of posts that are pro the jabby wabby, right? It's supposed to be by people saying, you know, it's good I haven't got sick. And a lot of them, you know, just saying like, well, I got sick, but it would have been worse if I didn't have the jabby wabby. But I've been looking through, there's lots of posts and that, and a lot of it looks like bots. And this is, you know, what we've got to contend with today is they're using bots, right? AI to try and sway our opinion. So as a lot of people are becoming more aware about, you know, things like the cameras and the data centers, and they're speaking up about that, this other narrative I've noticed has crept in right from the other side. But like I said, I'm sure it's 100% bots and AI driven. Have you noticed anything like this in your social media? Let me know below.
50 years ago, you didn't have to ask permission from the government to go fishing, own a property, build on your property, renovate your home, use a transportation vehicle, start a business, get married, own a weapon, hunt, cut hair, sell a product, protest, grow your own food, sell that food that you grow on your own property, or even just set up a lemonade stand.
Well, that's what they want us to think.
You actually can't do anything without asking for the government's permission first.
Right? The control system, the control grid, they want to control everything, but it's quite obvious that they really want to control what we take into ourselves, the food, the water, right? They want to control our energy and basically our freedom of movement. They seem to be the main things, right? And obviously they want to control our minds with fear and this idea that we have controllers and that they somehow have control and they get to make the rules. Like that is the biggest program of all. If we can all get rid of that, and we understand that no one has the right to rule us, then things might change pretty quick.
So my research at the moment is in earth energies, and what I've noticed in the research, in the reading, especially from John Michel in a book,
The New View Over Atlantis, published in 1969, a thorough investigation into the alignments of prehistoric sites and natural landmarks.
It talks about how a lot of these churches are built on former pagan sites, but the suggestion as to why is because they're built on energy, earth energy areas, whether they're energy lines or just something significant about the energy itself.
And so a page from the book shows a map of Cambridge with an alignment of 7 churches along this ley
I would
line.
agree, and I definitely want to get a copy of that book. That looks interesting.
The churches you can see
yeah,
circled.
all the old cathedrals, churches, you know, mosques, basilicas, and many other types of buildings are built on ley lines and ley line nodes, right? Which is where they intersect, because they're built on the natural earth energy grid, and that's what they were enhancing and amplifying. That's why it was all free energy. It's just all free earth and ether energy that they were drawing in and converting to a usable source, right? Of course, that all had to end for their, you know, the parasites control system. That's why they took out all the bells and organs and choirs, things like this. They took out the, you know, the infrastructure, the internal workings of these buildings to shut it down, right? To shut down the energy. And then, of course, they've then changed them. So now you go to church and you worship something outside of you, where back in the day, it was you that was getting enhanced, your system, your energy. You were literally getting close to God, to the source of you. And of course, now that source they want you to believe is outside, right? With a God that will sit there on a cloud and judge you. You know, this is what they do. They invert everything. But definitely there was an earth grid built on natural earth energy lines, ley lines, all this kind of stuff. But yeah, like, what do you think about that? Leave me your comments. Do you think that the cathedrals were free energy systems, free energy healing frequency machines? Or do you think that they were there for something else? Because they definitely have a link to water, which is something I'm looking into at the moment. But let me know your thoughts. What were the cathedrals really for?
I हम पहुंच गए हैं एलोरा के कैलाश मंदिर, लेकिन पहली ही नजर में एक ऐसी चीज दिखी जिसने मुझे रोक दिया।
भाई पहले इसे देखो, मंदिर छोड़कर नंदी को यहाँ अकेला क्यों बनाया? रुको भाई, पहाड़ के बीच ये पुल आखिर बनाया ही क्यों गया?
Oh my gosh! Look at that! What? Wow!
भाई एलोरा में कैलाश टेम्पल तो आपने देखा होगा, लेकिन इसी पहाड़ में एक ऐसी गुफा है जहां पहुंचते ही पानी और पत्थर का खेल शुरू हो जाता है।
अरे भाई, अंदर आके एक चीज ने तो दिमाग घुमा दिया। पूरा मंदिर पहाड़ के अंदर काटा गया है।
लेकिन रुक भाई, असली खेल तो इन दीवारों पर है। यहाँ शिव की ऐसी विशाल नक्काशी है जिसमें रावण पूरा कैलाश हिलाने की कोशिश कर रहा है। सोचो, ये सब हजारों साल पहले पत्थर में कैसे काट दिया होगा?
Well, there's just a few sites from around the realm that are being rediscovered. These places are being rediscovered very quickly at the moment. Like every week, there's more coming out, right? People trekking further in, to canyons, to jungles, and finding these places. And of course, everyone's got a phone now, right, with a camera in it, putting it out there. But who do you think built all this stuff? To me, this is a previous advanced civilization. The most recent, is called Tartaria, just based on the fact that we were never taught about Tartaria. That's where the name comes from. But the old world. Then, we have tales of Lemuria, Atlantis, previous civilizations. So how old do you think all this stuff is? And how do you think they made it? Like all those intricate Indian carvings, like what are we talking here? Are we talking laser cutting? Are we talking 3D printing, molds with geopolymer? It looks printed to me, a lot of it, right? It really does. And a lot of it, you can see the sectional work where they're making sections and putting them together. But yeah, let me know, what do you think was the technology they were using? And of course, that cave we saw, and there's lots of these everywhere, right? Where it looks like they've cut into mountains, right? And turned them into temples, or, temples, churches, whatever, healing places. How do you think they were doing that? Or is it maybe that they built them and it's been melted at some point to look like a rock? There's so much that we don't know at the moment. A lot of it's an edge, right? Because we can't prove or disprove it. But definitely in my mind, they had a much higher technology than we do at the moment that they were using to build all this stuff. Because clearly it wasn't hard for them, because it's everywhere. Let me know your thoughts. How did they do it?
A car fell off a cliff into the archaeological site of Marais in Peru. Luckily, no one was hurt. But it did distract from something even crazier. A long-range drone was flown deep into the Atacama Desert and found this. A 2,500-year-old geoglyph that's going to make your geometry and history teacher want to quit their job. Context. These are not the geoglyphs that Nazca is famous for, the pictures of the animals and stuff. You've probably seen those, but what's rarely shown are these kilometer-long lines. They're not just in flat desert, they're on top of mountains. Some with the top cut off of them. Despite this difficulty, they can only be seen from the air. There's not just a few, there's thousands in inhospitable desert, and we keep finding more. The method to create them is pretty straightforward. Scrape away the oxidized layer of desert, reveal the white vanilla texture underneath. Construction's not the problem, geometry is. We usually see the cool animals and the spirals that give off a little more primitive vibe. That fits the timeline and the culture. These don't. Why are we practicing advanced geometry in a remote part of an arid desert only visible from the sky? And you know what? I could have lived with most of these questions until I saw this guy. To the untrained eye, it is a cool looking combination of shapes, but that is not what it is. It is 6 different geometric patterns that cannot be created without using the other patterns as a reference. That's called a geometric construction. The ancient world called this sacred geometry. It was sacred because it could be observed at any scale of the universe, which is why it was incorporated in temples from ancient Greece to ancient India, which is where things get weird. Kalachakra is an advanced philosophical spiritual framework from ancient India. And all it can be constructed using this glyph from 10,000 miles away. If we go a little north, the Pyramid of Teotihuacan can also be constructed with the glyph. Since it's a harmonic shape, you can also make it using the patterns that sound creates as it travels through water. All of that insane. If you don't know the other mysteries, like how they could bend rocks, probably by using their 30% larger cranial capacity, which we only know because they mummified their people just like in ancient Egypt. Also revered blue eyes like the entire ancient world did for some reason. They even built a bunch of pyramids too, like in Corral. Look, we know they were super, super smart, but none of this fits.
Yeah,
I think it's
agree.
pretty
We really
safe to say
know,
we have no
why
idea
they were
what
doing
was going
all
on here.
this, especially with the glyphs like that, just patterns on the floor, on the ground, that can only be seen by the from the air. By the way, from airships, right? And of course, ancient aliens used to use this. And say that, it was all made for aliens. That's why, you can only see it from the air, but I don't believe that narrative. But obviously sacred geometry was very important to them. And like he said, it's integrated in all the old world buildings, the layouts of the towns, the structure, everything. It's all based on geometry and cymatics and sound, right? And sound is frequency. And we're told that everything is frequency and energy. So I'm guessing that they knew a lot about the actual makeup of this place and of us and how to use it to their benefit. And that infrastructure has been broken and taken down. And we've been taught our whole lives that everything's physical. That's what they want us to believe now, right? Everything's physical, when clearly it's not, because all the energy of the old worlds, the previous civilizations, went into this kind of knowledge. But again, the big question is, how do they do it? How did they make it so perfect on the ground when you can only see it from the sky? I mean, clearly they've had to have some kind of flying machines, probably airships, but what's the purpose? What's the purpose of it? Let me know your thoughts below.
I've called, obviously, this whole setup Babylon before. Babylon was obviously Mesopotamia, which is now modern-day Iraq. But it seems like it was definitely a landmass or a place at a time, but it's definitely more like a system. Wealth is concentrated, so Babylon was always portrayed as extremely wealthy. So the concentration of wealth to the few, the luxury is disconnected from the ordinary people, the economic dependence is on a large system, growing inequality, so the recurring theme that elites will prosper while everyone else will struggle. People will begin to feel that rules are applied unequally and institutions serve insiders rather than the mass. Opportunities decline, loss of trust. Historically, one of the biggest warning signs of a society in decline is loss of trust in governments, courts, media, financial, and religion. Bureaucratic expansion, so many empires develop increasingly complex systems of administration, regulation, tax, and centralized control. Supporters of that whole structure will see this as all necessary, while others see it as a complete detachment from the everyday life. The moral and cultural conflict. Ancient writers have often described that periods before a major collapse, there's different in values and systems, people disagree about the nation's purpose, and social conscience weakens. Debt and financial strain. Historically, many declining states have experienced heavy debt, currency pressures, fiscal stress, difficulty funding commitments, all of it. And the typical outreach is overconfidence. So one of Revelation's themes is that Babylon believes it's so secure and untouchable. The warning is that the powerful system often assume they cannot fall, they are permanent, and they are indispensable. The internal division. So many collapses will finally occur because of a single external enemy, but because political factions stop operating, institutions compete with each other, public legitimacy weakens, and then the sudden trigger. So that's what I mean, like it could be a large period of often followed by financial crisis, a war, resource shock, a low fuel crisis, political crisis, or a natural disaster. So the Babylonian is more a system as much as it is the landmass at one point. So they're constantly, hence that whole point of recreating Babylon, they're always trying to recreate that system where they had this control and power of everything, wherever they went. So looking at the fall of that, and you can't, like, honestly, as we were talking, you're reading it going, yeah, this is all bound to happen. and that was the new black box. Now, they had apparently planned 4 different countries to potentially be host of this black box, but they've picked Australia to be the final destination, so it's going to be on the west coast of Australia. I think they've actually started the building of it now. So this is, I don't know if you can see any of that, a massive granite plain, because it's the most geological stable place to observe, and it's meant to be picking up all the climate change so that future civilizations, now if we're all getting wiped out, so that they can determine what had happened.
Voice treaties and recognition policy.
Wow, I have not heard of that one. Have you? Oh my gosh, a black box that's going to record the demise of civilization. And that was Nikki, my mate Nikki Penfold and Dale Holmes. So if you want to check out more of that, Dale Holmes channel on YouTube. And they're both actually going to be joining myself and Kelly in Melbourne for the Tartaria Australia live event. It's a Saturday, Sunday show. I'll leave the link for the tickets below. It is October 31st. Come and join us. 8-hour show with Kelly and myself on Saturday, and then on Sunday, have Dale, Nikki, Paula, who I do shows with as well. He's going to do a bit of a talk, and some other cool people. So come and check it out.
One of the most famous album covers of all-time rock history was that of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper. One of the faces on the cover was of this man. His name was Aleister Crowley. He was called in his lifetime the wickedest man in the world. He was the son of a preacher. He rebelled against his parents and against God. His mother called him the Beast. Imagine that, the Beast. And she wasn't joking. He blasphemed God, got into the occult, wrote of every kind of perversity, practiced sexual occultic acts, ceremonies, mixed sex with the occult, and drugs. This is him. A little closer up shot. Would you buy a used car from this man? He was considered a Satanist. He recorded encounters with demons who would speak with him, and he would write down the words they gave him. In 1918, while in New York with drugs and the occult, he sought to open a portal to speak to the supernatural beings. According to his records, he contacted an alien entity, a demonic entity, really, he might not call it, but named Lam, L-A-M. This entity told him that he was the gatekeeper between dimensions. Crowley's disciple, Kenneth Grant, described Lam as an entity existing outside of space and time. And he sought communication with Lam through altered states and magic rituals. Now here's the thing. Crowley drew a picture of the entity he saw, who appeared to him, according to his account, in 1918. Are you ready? Are you ready for this? Here is the picture. What are you looking at? This is the prototype of all the aliens, all the extraterrestrials and UFO drivers, visitors from other planets. From all the accounts from Roswell to Close Encounters and E.T. and Disclosure Day and Outer Limits and on and on and on. And all those accounts that people say what they saw. But here's the key. This is not the drawing of a being from another planet. This is the drawing of an entity or spiritual entity contacted by an occultist, Satanist. This is the drawing of a demon, a demonic spirit. But it's the prototype of the little gray man. It's the first one that we know of, not from outer space, but from the demonic realm. Well, and that's before they even started seeing flying saucers. What would that tell you? It would tell you strongly, argue strongly, that this, as much as any part that's unexplained,
point of contention,
is
right?
largely a demonic phenomenon.
Believe that all aliens are demons. I mean, I don't know if I agree that they're demonic, but they're definitely not the aliens. They're not outer space aliens, right? They don't come from outer space. That's true. And definitely the people contacting these entities were nefarious, right? They had nefarious intentions. So it wasn't done for good and from heart-centered people or anything like that. So, demonic, yeah, evil, you could use those words, I think, especially saying what's happened since. One point is around 1918, I can't remember the exact date, but Universal Pictures released they might have been 30s actually, a bit later, their Globe, right? It's on the start of all their movies, the Globe. And that was, 20, 30 years before man actually apparently went to the moon and knew what the Earth looked like, and their globe Earth. But more than that, like he said, Lamb basically became the Greys. And if you follow that line of Aleister Crowley, you get to like JPL, which is now part of NASA, JPL Systems. And then you look at who they brought in to start NASA, and it gets into the story of the Germans in World War II and all this kind of stuff. And when you really start to look at it, NASA, and then you look into what NASA means and their symbols and all this kind of stuff, it is all very dark entity based, right? Because it's a story. Space, like they tell us, doesn't exist. Outer space and aliens, all these other worlds and suns doesn't exist. Right? It's a fantasy story made up by these people for many reasons, right? To basically enslave our minds, to make us think that we're insignificant in an ever-expanding universe, and basically that, they can go out and there's all these outside threats, right? They love their fear, the outside threat of comets and meteors and invasion. And of course, they have been pushing the alien thing for the last year and a half now so strongly. We're all waiting for Project Bluebeam, right? But yeah, I mean, you can literally trace NASA back to Aleister Crowley and Lamb and all this kind of. You can, the lineage goes back further. You could get back to John Dee, really, of all these occultists. But occultist just means hidden, right? Occult, it doesn't mean cult, it just means hidden. And this is information that obviously they're keeping secret. This is what secret societies have, right? Occult knowledge, and they're using it for evil purposes, right? They're using it without morality. But, it's the double side of the coin. I'm sure that in all those books that they use, there is good stuff, right? But the difference is, are you going to use it with morals and ethics or without? Because once you get rid of the morals and ethics, that's when it goes, depraved, right? And we've heard what's going on in Hollywood, right? It's all the same kind of lineage, all this stuff led up to, now, right? The Trans Am agenda, the spirit cooking, Marina Abramovich, all the cross-dressing, all this stuff, right? It's literally all leads back in the same line. And these are the parasites. These are the possessed ones, possessed by the psychotic god El, or Yahweh, or Baal, whatever name you want to give it. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on that one.
What I'm about to show you is the planet Mars. This is the planet that we've been shown many times on space documentaries, that has land on it. It's a red planet. It's got rocks and mountains and dirt. And Elon Musk, the owner of SpaceX, he's gonna build cities on this thing. So I'm here to tell you that he's not gonna build cities on this thing. He's never gonna go to this thing. We're never gonna go to this thing. This is not a physical object, guys. I don't know why it's so hard to believe. My camera is perfectly in focus. I'm showing you the planet Mars, the way it looks to the human eyes. Don't believe what you read in the textbooks anymore about planets, or the space documentaries, or Elon Musk even, for that matter. They know what's up there.
Let's say we're in Miami, and we're looking out over the wide open ocean.
They treat us like,
that ocean is
like
deep
children.
space. The orbit around the Earth is the shoreline, where the waves are crashing. The deep water is space. And there is a continent out there, 3 times the size of Africa. That's the moon.
Well, there you go. That was Mars for a Pentax, I think it's Pentax P900, cymatic shape, right? And all of the wandering stars, the planets, are cymatic shapes, and so are the stars. And they look a lot like, if you just Google or into YouTube, star in a jar, where they create a star, right? And it's basically a bit of plasma floating in water. And we've all heard, right? Water's above, water's below. So what really is space? It's definitely not physical like they tell us. And like he said, Elon Musk is never going to Mars. And, just another connection, right, with NASA is Wernher von Braun, who started NASA. He was brought across in Project Paperclip. He wrote a book about an expedition to Mars. This was back in the 50s. And the leader of the expedition to Mars was named Elon, right? Or L-on, if you want to put it that way. And of course, we know, well, I hope you know, Elon is a deceiver, right? He wants to put chips in people's heads. He wants to create robots for everyone, more robots on Earth than people. But, in the front, he's like, oh, but I'm a nice guy. Everyone thinks he's this nice guy and this super smart dude. But look at what people do, not what they say. And what's he doing? He's putting chips in people's heads, creating robot armies, basically hoarding all the wealth, if that's even true, richest man in the world. Why isn't he helping people? Why is that all going into AI data centers? You've got to ask yourself these questions, right? But yeah, interesting. Nothing is as it seems.
It's 2026, the year it all started. We began awakening from our ancient slumber and into the nightmare that we'd been living in. We thought we were outnumbered. We didn't think there was enough of us, but a video was shared on social media. And slowly at first, and then in droves, we started to realize how many of us there were. Australia, South Africa, the United States, United Kingdom, Europe, Asia. We were everywhere. And with it, we started to remember. We reminded one another of where we came from, who created us, and where we will return to. We were reminded of our divinity and power. We were reminded that this earth is ours, and so is the future.
Time to rise.
This is not a content channel.
It's 2026.
Share it.
People are becoming more aware. More people every day. And the more that the parasites, the L-ites, do to introduce their control system, the more it seems to backfire on them, right? Like they're pushing with things like flock cameras, data centers, AI, all these restrictive things. And of course, the cost of living, right? And it's got to the point where all of their BS is now affecting pretty much everyone, right? And when it starts to affect people, they start to ask questions, why can't I afford to live anymore? Why are they building a data center across the road that's, draining all the natural resources and giving out noise pollution and devaluing my property? All these things. And this is, again, like I said at the start, this is what I've been seeing over the last, 4 to 6 weeks. I've seen like it's been like an upload in volume of people, making videos like this, people commenting on videos, but basically people seeing what's going on and taking action, right? You didn't hear it from me, but these flock cameras apparently are full of copper, just so you know. So there's lots of that being going on, right? And spray foam used, lasers. People are now taking action, and they're starting to dismantle this system that is trying to be built around us. So I agree. It's time that we all rise together, stop the division, because the only division there is between us and the L-ites. It's not us and our neighbors. It's not us and our fellow man. All that stuff is just put in there to distract us so that we focus on the wrong enemy. We think it's our neighbor. We think it's another country or another religion or whatever. But it's not, and it never is, and it never has been. It's always been the invaders, the parasites. And this is one of their biggest tools, is to distract us so we don't see what they're doing. We don't see it's them. We just think it's the world, or, our neighbors are making it bad. But it's definitely, I see good things coming. What do you see? What have you seen? Let me know in the comments. And there we go, guys. That's another one done. So thanks for spending some time with me. I hope you enjoyed that one. If you did, please leave me a like, leave me a comment, share this video around, hype it up, all that good stuff. And most importantly, stay awesome, because you are. We got this. and I'll talk to you all on the next upload. Bye for now.
Riley, look at me.
Make a tap out.
If it's baby mama, activate and walk 'em like a dog. Walk 'em like a dog.
Look at this. Somebody come look at this.
Really, Layla?
Leave me alone.
All right.
Leave me alone.
All right.
Leave me alone.
All right.
Leave me alone.
All right.